Salutations. How's everybody doing today? Does today feel a little bit more peaceful than usual? Do you feel still as if you are moving underwater? Well, if you don't, then congratulations. Your body is starting to adjust, to acclimate to the new energies. What has been occurring since the new moon equinox portal and the entry fully into the manifestation of the new earth energies is a synchronization between our minds, our bodies, and our souls. We've been slightly off kilter, slightly out of sync with each other, and this has resulted in there being a triple space of hesitation, of kind of like ghosting or overlay between our physical body, between our minds, and between our souls. And as these energies have continued to bombard the earth, there has been very little surcease. It has occurred almost continuously. Now, I think today I'm receiving less solar indicators in regards to the megaelectron voltage that has been bombarding our magnetosphere and causing the Schumann resonance to excite at such a quickened pace for the past month or so. So because of that slight reprieve that we have achieved at this point, you may be feeling a little bit better. You may be feeling a little bit clearer in your mind. You may be feeling a bit more at peace. Now, for those of us who work with the energies and who have a consistent meditation practice, yoga practice, it has been a constant challenge in order to contend with these energies, but it has been easier for us than it is or has been for many other people who do not have these tools in place and who were not ready for these energies to discombobulate them the way that they have. And that is what has happened, and it's still what's going on for many, many people right now. So be patient with family members, with friends, and if they are amenable to such, give them information in regards to what's going on. Give each according to the amount of information they can handle. You can come at it scientifically, talking about the solar energies. Don't have to mention anything about a wave coming from the center of the galaxy. Don't have to mention anything about a new earth. None of that is necessary. In the reality that we are currently living in, the act of grounding means that we are not dependent upon abstract ideals. We're not dependent upon anything that is not physically extant in the world around us. Now, this is not to say that those things do not exist and that they are not affecting us, because they are, and we know that they are. And those of us who are energy workers, we of course will continue to work with these energies as time continues to pass and as we reach portal after portal after portal and continue our movement upwards into the light and the full manifestation of the new earth energies. Now, a topic that I want to relate to this total energetic manifestation is related to the idea that I have spoken of in a number of videos. It's called the splitting of the worlds, where humanity is being divided into, where there are those who are of the light and there are those who are of the dark, and never the twain shall meet. Now, this time frame corresponds, as we are all familiar with what many cultures around the world are calling the end times, or Armageddon, or the apocalypse. The apocalypse basically just means the unveiling, the showing, the revealing of truths that were previously hidden. And we've seen that occurring at a very fast pace ever since 2012. And if we could go back in time to those days and look forward to now, there's no way in the world that we could have predicted anything that has happened. We could not have predicted the world as it is today, and it is amazing. If you haven't taken a moment to just stop and smell the coffee, look around yourself at the world, look at where you are, look at what your life looks like right now, and ask yourself, would you have expected this to be the case back in 2012 when everyone was talking about the end of the world and the Mayan calendar and all that kind of stuff? Now, all of the traditions that speak of the turn of the ages is referring to a shift between one way of being and another, between one paradigmatic outlook and another. Some people call it the end of history, and they state that as we move forward, we are in a new age. And these are all phrases that I have used before in this particular time in which I've been recording in the past month or so. By the way, I want to thank everybody out there who's been watching the videos. My views and likes have skyrocketed. Everything has gone up in the hundreds of percentage, a couple of things in the thousands of percentage, and that's because I wasn't here for like 4 or 5 years. So it's good to be back, and I'm glad that there are people who are actively into and curious about what's going on at a deeper level of being. So, these times are considered to be the end times, which means that everything is shifting. We see that in the world around us. We see that in politics, we see that in economics, we see that in culture. We see that many cultures, many ways of being, many societies have reached a point where the old ways no longer work, where everything has to be reconfigured. It has to be thought about and brought into a different relationship with the people who live in the different societies around the earth. In many cases, population pressures are leading to these new ways of being as people from different parts of the world are entering into places where they've never been before, and they're causing those cultures to shift as a response. And there is pushback. There is resistance to these changes. Here in the United States, we see those changes and that resistance in our politics every single day. And some of us see it every day in our lives around us. We can see it in those people that we walk by on the street. We can see it as we're in the grocery stores, looking around and seeing people looking at us. It's just apparent in everything that we do. That that a serious shift in the way people think and the way people do things is underway. So the question then becomes, how much of what the ancient prophecies said would occur is actually occurring now? How much of it is going to occur in the future? Now, for many of you from the United States and the Western cultures, you grew up in the context of Christianity. And so you understand Christian belief systems. Understanding Christianity means that you understand that Christians believe that this is Armageddon, that this is the apocalypse. And that means that there is an entity that is supposed to rule the world during this time. That entity is called the Antichrist. And the Antichrist is supposed to be the most evil man, an individual who is supposed to rule the world in a very, very aggressive and negative way. In fact, he's supposed to prosecute Christians, kill Christians. Christians are supposed to go into hiding until such time as Jesus returns. And Jesus will descend from the clouds leading an army, and the Antichrist will be defeated. The devil will be locked up in hell for 1,000 years. Then he'll be released again for some reason, and he'll rule again, and then he will be locked up again forever. Now, that's as much as I remember of what I learned back when I was a youth in church, and they were teaching us about the end times. Those of you who know more about Christianity and Revelations can talk about the beast and Babylon and all of those other indicators that we are familiar with in popular vernacular, because they have entered into the mainstream. There are many movies that speak up or include some aspects of these understandings about these times that we are living in. So, who is the Antichrist? Is the Antichrist a person or is the Antichrist an energy? That is the question that we need to ask ourselves. Can we embody Antichrist energies? And can we embody Christ energies or Christic energies? Now, there are many people out there speaking to the ascended Christ and these energies. Some might call it the New Age Christ or the Christ of the sun. The solar Christ is another way to designate this being. And in this understanding, if Christic energies can be embodied, if people can take on the characteristics of the Christ, then can people also take on the embodiment or the energies of the Antichrist? Might that have something to do with the splitting of the worlds? As we see people making very specific choices about their lifestyles, about what they believe as far as their integrity is concerned, about their moral centers or lack thereof. I think that we see this occurring all around us every single day. We see people in our lives, we see our family members, we see our friends, we see acquaintances, people we work with, even strangers making choices every single day. Some of those choices we approve of, some of those choices we disapprove of. But people are making choices, people are taking action. Yesterday, or actually a couple of days ago, I spoke on thought, word, and action. I spoke on omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipotence. These are the triune modalities of manifestation. What brings things into being, from no thing to things, from the unmanifest to the manifest, from the 0 point field through sacred geometric quantum movement out of no thingness into somethingness, which is how all things manifest on this earth around us. It's how we came into being, how we each came into being. It's how this tree behind me came into being, how the grass comes into being. Everything in the world manifests through the same process. Now, this is magic, but we don't consider it magic because we have some understanding of the chemical process and the material process. We call that science, and we think we understand what's going on, while it's all very mysterious at the most fundamental basis. It's like consciousness in the body. Because science believes that we have an understanding of the body's mechanism, because we know that blood courses through our veins, that the heart beats, and that the cells exist, and that there are quantum processes going on in the body, and we have neurons and a network in our mind and a second brain in our stomach, and we've got gut bacteria and ancient viruses in our bodies, we think we have an idea of what we are. But when we look at the body, we are looking at a radio. When a radio is turned on, voices, music comes out of that radio. But are the voices, is the music part of the radio itself? Is the soul, is the spirit part of the body itself? Even today, in these times, with all that we know in science, I still run across articles that talk about how the origin of consciousness is in the brain. Like the physical mechanism of this body is the reason for being. Like it is integrally connected to this body and cannot exist without the body. Now, I know from my own personal lived experience that this is not so. And I know that many of you do as well. You have had, as I have, actual physical experiences when you have been out of the body, when you have perhaps looked down upon your body beneath you, and when you have independent corroboration of the fact that you have done so. You've seen things that you could not have seen if you were in your body, or you have come back with abilities or information that you could not have known if you had not left your body in some way, shape, or form. What has left the body? Is it the soul? Is it the radio waves? That's the question. Which gives rise to a new question. Does everybody have a soul? That's a deep question right there. And that is a potentially problematic question for a lot of people because we are raised in a humanistic society with the belief that all people are the same, that people are not different, that everyone has the same capacity for goodness or badness. Is that so? Does life, does the world prove that to us? Or does our observation and experience of the world prove something different? Is the rhetoric different from the lived reality? Are there people out there in the world that you would consider soulless? Are there what some people call cutouts out there in the world? People walking around who are not the same as you or I? Are there people out there called organic portals? Individuals out there who are basically empty shells waiting to be filled by something else. What makes those people different than you or I? Is it something in the brain? Do they think the same way that we do? Do they not think the same way we do? If so, what are their thoughts like? Could it be that there is a scale? On one side of the scale, there are empaths, and on another side of the scale, there are psychopaths. Is there a difference qualitatively between the minds and experience of psychopaths and empaths? Do you know from your own personal experience what it's like to talk to know, to be intimately in relation with someone who is of a different orientation than you? Do you have stories about you and that person and your relationship? Have you Googled gaslighting? Have you Googled malignant narcissism? If you have not, perhaps you should. And when you do so, keep in mind that this is the time of the splitting of the worlds. That there is a scale, that we do exist within polarity, and that all people, perhaps, are not the same. That some people don't have the same things going on inside that other people do, which gives them a different orientation than other people. Perhaps some are on a Christic path, and perhaps some are on an anti-Christic path. Since there are poles, that means there are extremes. There are people at the extreme end of the Christic path that manifest the full range of abilities, as there are people on the oppositional side who manifest equally the full range of abilities.